Hello everyone and welcome back to Alternative Apex. We are here in Singapore for round 13 of the 2022 Formula 1 season. We're getting closer and closer to the end of this season, and while Charles Leclerc does continue to have a healthy lead at the front of the championship, Carlos Sainz has had quite strong momentum in the last couple of races, so it should be interesting to see how things go today, because it could have big implications for the championship. Let's have a look at the starting grid for today's race. On pole position is Charles Leclerc, championship leader. Alongside him on the front row is Sergio Perez, the driver who got pole position last time out and finished second in the race. Then on third it is Verstappen ahead of Carlos Sainz, ahead of Lando Norris and Valtteri Bottas in 6th place. Then there is George Russell for Mercedes ahead of Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll starting inside the top 10. Then we have Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, Mick Schumacher and Nico Hülkenberg as you start to see more and more grid penalties as we get further down the grid. Behind them it is Daniel Ricciardo ahead of Kevin Magnussen, then Yuki Tsunoda and Nicholas Latifi, both with grid penalties. Then in 19th it is Alexander Albon ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who obviously had a grid penalty and has dropped well down the order. Then there's Zhou Guanyu and Pascal Wehrlein who round out the back of the grid. Now it's time to go down to the actual grid to see these drivers and teams preparing for today's race. You can see there the Ferrari on pole position, the championship leader Charles Leclerc looking to try and get back and in control of this championship. He's been outscored by his teammate in the last 2 races, so it is crucial for him to build back the momentum that he had previously. Of course, he's got 8 wins so far this season, 7 of which came in a row from round 3 to round 10. So I think we know Charles Leclerc has the ability and the talent and the car to win several races and be the driver in the front of the field. However, Sainz in the last couple of races has really shown that he is able to do just the same as his teammate, if not better. So today is going to be very interesting for the championship, and already there is one big difference for today's race. In pole position, Charles Leclerc is starting on the medium tyres, as is most of the field. However, in 4th on the grid, Carlos Sainz will be starting on the soft compound of tyre. The other driver to do so is Pierre Gasly down in 10th on the grid. So those two going with a different strategy, which I imagine will be a 2-stop as the screen does there suggest. That should mix things up today. So, going to be an exciting race for sure, not only in terms of racing, but also in terms of strategy. In theory, that 2-stop is slower, however, maybe with sort of getting yourself in some clear air on some fresher tyres, you can make something happen. I think given Sainz's championship position at the moment, he needs to take those risks, so I'm not surprised to see him starting on the soft compound tyre for today's race. The drivers are now beginning to line up on the starting grid, the crowd very excited for the start of today's race. The final few cars are just getting into position now, and we are just moments away from the start of the Singapore Grand Prix. All drivers now in position, and the lights are coming on. We are ready to race. And we are racing in Singapore. It's a good start there from Sergio Perez, who's immediately in a pull level with Charles Leclerc, the pole sitter. They're going to be side by side to tell him on. Perez on the inside trying to make something happen there, but he just gets squeezed a bit too much. Doesn't have the confidence, doesn't want to risk it this early in the race, and Leclerc will hold on to the lead. Perez drops back to second, behind them Verstappen defending from Carlos Sainz despite having those softs at the start. Sainz not able to make up any ground initially, however of course there's still a long way to go in this race. Further down the order got George Russell battling away with Valtteri Bottas here, as that's Ocon getting involved in this little scrap as well. Lots of cars in this little battle, but in the end it is Bottas ahead of Russell, but diving down the inside Pierre Gasly, who started 10th in this race, already up 3 positions, using those soft tyres to the best of his abilities. Great bit of racing there, but Russell is fighting back against the AlphaTauri, not quite able to make anything happen though. It's behind that is Russell, just about staying ahead there of Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, but it's Leclerc up at the front of the field at the moment, who is the leading of this race. Perez in second and Carlos Sainz in third. All very close at the moment as Sainz has got ahead of Verstappen somewhere there, so very interesting so far. At the end of lap 7 already, Carlos Sainz coming into the pit lane. Those soft tyres have not lasted long at all. He is into the pits for his first pit stop of the day. He'll be going to the medium compound of tyre, I assume here, as let's see, pulls into the pit box, or what's it going to be on the Ferrari, and it is indeed medium tyres for Carlos Sainz. Let's see what he can do now as he drops down the order. Already you can see him down in 21st place, but he's attacking the back of Zhou Guanyu. Let's see, down the inside of Telmon goes the Ferrari. Nice and easy work there. Good move from the Ferrari, but Zhou is fighting back around the outside of turn 3. Really doing all he can here to be a problem for the Ferrari driver as they race down towards turn 5 now. Side by side here. Carlos Sainz and Zhou Guanyu racing away, but it is Sainz in the Ferrari who gets ahead. And while Zhou will have DRS down this straight, doesn't look like he's quite going to be able to make a move as he looks briefly, but I think he knows that Ferrari will have the pace, especially on fresher tyres now. As lap later we see, racing once again, it is Albon who's now coming under pressure from Sainz, and he's coming under more than pressure there as Sainz goes down the inside, but look at that, great racing. Albon fights straight back around the outside. Sainz are now going to try and do the same thing to Albon as he now fights to the outside, and now down the inside. In theory, the Ferrari with the superior grip should make this move easily, but apparently not there as Albon fights back. Zhou's getting involved in this one as well, right behind the pair, as they're racing now into this very tight and tricky section. This part of the track was literally designed to stop overtaking around here because of the bridge that is coming up, because it doesn't want drivers racing through here, because they don't want anyone to crash into the bridge, because, well, who would want to crash into a bridge, quite frankly? As now we see racing here, it's Sainz on the back of Tsunoda now. He will be the next victim for the Ferrari drivers. He dives down the inside of turn 1 there, late on the brakes, gets the car stopped, and again, just like with Zhou, it is going to be close here through turn 3 and down the next little mini straight, and then the next bigger straight will be another opportunity for these two to continue racing. So they're fighting hard, and despite having a much quicker car in both terms of raw pace of the Ferrari and also the fresher tyres, Sainz perhaps not gaining positions as quickly as you'd imagine here. He's having to work quite hard to get himself back up the order, but the championship contender is doing all he can at this point in the race. Now here we see Pascal Wehrlein would be the next car to be overtaken by Carlos Sainz, gets very sideways there. He's up past Lewis Hamilton, taking advantage of traffic here, and is up into 16th position behind his teammate Nico Hülkenberg in 15th. So now we see Hülkenberg, he goes deep, he locks up the front right, going into that corner, and that has allowed Wehrlein to get ahead of his teammate in the Porsche. Now that switches those two Porsche cars around. Now we'll see if Wehrlein can continue to make some progress in this race. After starting last, he is looking to make some gains in this race. Now, up at the front, we see Max Verstappen on lap 13 of 31 is coming into the pits on those medium tyres. He'll be going to a set of the hard tyres. One stop for sure for everyone else in this race, apart from, of course, Gasly and Sainz. Gasly, if you're wondering, is still down in 22nd place. So, looking like it was probably the wrong choice of strategy for him. Now we see racing once again. It is Sainz attacking Nico Hülkenberg through this tight part of the track. He gets that move done nice and easily, perhaps easier than some of the other moves we've seen him make so far today. But good work there from Sainz, who continues to progress up the order. As now we see a lap later, Sergio Perez going to match his teammate's strategy and come into the pit lane. Charles Leclerc, though, way out in front of the field, utterly dominant in this first stint so far, 12 seconds ahead of Lando Norris at the moment, who is also yet to pit and is struggling at the moment, I imagine, on those quite worn tyres. As now we see the two rebels coming out of the pits. Verstappen has managed to undercut his teammate to get up into what will be a net second place here. So Perez in the pit window has been jumped by his teammate, who is currently behind him in the championship. Verstappen not having a great season so far. As now we're on board with Carlos Sainz. He's almost in the top 10 here. He's racing now with George Russell to get into the top 10 around the outside of the Mercedes driver. Nicely done there. Can he complete the move? He will indeed. But now down the next straight, Russell, I'm sure, will be looking to fight back. Here we go on board with the Mercedes driver right up the back of the Ferrari. And look at the speed he's going to have. He's going to look to the inside. Can't quite make that one work. Now to the inside of the next corner. Very late on the brakes. Extremely late on the brakes. He gets the car stopped. Sainz still just about poking his nose inside there as we go into the next right-hander. Very tight quarters racing here from these two racers, battling away in the streets of Singapore here, side by side still. Carlos Sainz going to go all the way around the outside and complete the move up into 10th place there, but still with a pit stop to make in this race, he's got a lot of ground to make up. As Charles Leclerc on lap 15 will enter the pits from the lead of the race here. Charles Leclerc into the pits with a 13-second lead over Lando Norris now, so that Ferrari really rapid, almost pulling a second a lap over the competition, which is truly remarkable from the Ferrari driver as he does switch onto the hard tyres, committing to that one-stop strategy like the majority of the field. Now, as Leclerc comes out of the pits, where is he going to come out here? Comes out in a nice bit of clear air, so nowhere. He's got a massive gap in front of him to Lando Norris. And he's got Vettel behind him now, 3 seconds behind us. Vettel having a strong race so far, and most of course still is the pit window. Aston Martin not looking too bad today. Perhaps finally they can score their first points of the season, as we've seen them so close so many times this season. As now we see Vettel coming into the pit lane. He's making his one and only stop in today's race. Of course, pulls into his pit box now, switching to the hard compounder tyres. Where will the Aston Martin come out now? Makes his way, trundles his way down at the pit lane, and his teammate is up in 11th, Vettel in at 12th, so that's where the two Aston Martins are at the moment. Stroll in 11th, Vettel in 12th, so not doing too bad today, but still outside of the points. Now Carlos Sainz on lap 19 is pulling into the pit lane. The Ferrari driver making his second stop of the day now. Was up into, I believe, 6th when that pit stop happened. Now looking to try and make some gains in this final stint of the race with fresher, hard tyres. But down in 12th place, he's going to have some work to do to get back up the order. Schumacher is right behind the Ferrari driver there, trying to pressure him. But down Pierre Gasly, the other driver on this two-stop strategy, down in 17th. So disappointing day for him. As now we see some racing here. Ricciardo just ahead of Wehrlein, goes deep, locks up his front left, and that has allowed Wehrlein up another position there. So Wehrlein up into 14th place in this race now. Hulkenberg has had a reliability issue in the second Porsche and is retired from this race. Wehrlein now attacking Mick Schumacher over 13th place, all over the back of the Haas driver. Going to switch to the outside now. He squeezes him almost into the wall there. Schumacher racing very hard here for this position. Two white and red cars battling it out for 13th place, and it is Wehrlein who's going to get ahead there. Schumacher makes a small mistake. Ricciardo right behind the Haas driver will be looking to try and make the move here. Schumacher throws a bit of a block and will hold on, or will he? Goes a little bit wide. That's going to allow Ricciardo to fight back here. Ricciardo going to go all the way around this part of the lap. Very bold. Brave stuff here as Hamilton now is going to have a look at the move, I'm sure, as well. And Hamilton down the inside of Mick Schumacher. Not the best camera view for her, I must admit. But Hamilton still side by side with Schumacher, racing their way down towards the next corner. And who is going to be ahead here? Schumacher makes the move. Can he complete it? Hamilton trying to get back ahead, and he will do. Hamilton gets past Schumacher for 15th place in this race. Now we see Carlos Sainz here, looking to try and get something from this race now. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to contend for the win today. He's up into 11th place now, or is he? Is Magnussen fighting this one hard? Neither of them in the points, but Magnussen, I'm sure, will want to try and stay ahead of the Ferrari on the basis that there's a reliability issue for anyone ahead of him. That will allow him back into the top 10 here. So Sainz right on the back of Magnussen, but Magnussen will not comfortably let Sainz pass. Sainz right on the back of the Haas driver there. Gonna have to send one to the inside here, I imagine. Late on the brakes. Magnussen misses the corner entirely there. Locks up, and that is the position over to Sainz. Magnussen drops to 12th, and now it's Wehrlein who has been making progress in this race. Now the car behind him. Sainz up into 11th, but it is the two Aston Martins here in 9th and 10th in this race so far. Now we have Wehrlein on the back of Magnussen, going into turn 5 and 6. And there they go. It's a strong move from Pascal Wehrlein down the inside of Magnussen, up into 12th in this race now. So very strong progress from the Porsche driver, who continues to march his way forward, as Sainz is on the back of the two Aston Martin cars now, but still yet to pass them for those points-paying positions. Now we see George Russell on the back of Valtteri Bottas. Bottas misses the corner, locks up, goes straight on. Another mistake here. Seems like very tricky conditions out there on the racetrack. Russell up into 5th place now in this race. Bottas drops to 6th and loses that position. So Russell now ahead, but Bottas with DRS down this next straight will be looking to fight straight back here. It is now the final lap of the race, so it's now or never for Bottas. And he's in the slipstream. He's got the DRS, but he's not going to be close enough to make the move happen. And as George Russell up into 5th, but up at the front, in a league of his own, Charles Leclerc makes his way through the final few corners of the lap. And once again, in 2022, he is back to winning ways. Charles Leclerc wins the Singapore Grand Prix. Brilliant drive from the Ferrari driver. Wins by 22 seconds. Wonderful stuff there. Whilst it may not have been the closest competition, you have to respect the sheer dominance of Charles Leclerc today. If anything, that's just as impressive as a great fight out front. So well done, Charles Leclerc. Verstappen is going to take 2nd place here today. And his teammate, Sergio Perez, it will take 3rd. 2.5 seconds behind him, and Lando Norris puts in a very strong drive for McLaren, not that far behind the Red Bull drivers there, in 4th place, with George Russell 12 seconds further back from the McLaren there. So not a great day for that Mercedes driver as he makes his way through the final corner and across the line. Russell taking 5th place there, ahead of Valtteri Bottas in 6th. The two Alpines are the next two cars to come in 7th and 8th. So they make their way through the final corners. So double points for the Alpine team, keeping up their strong momentum in recent races. They just continue to be a very strong force in this midfield battle. But behind them, for the first time this season, Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, they will both score points for Aston Martin. Finally, for the first time this season, Aston Martin score points, and they score 3 of them. 2 for Lance Stroll and 1 for Sebastian Vettel. So very well done there. Brilliant racing from both the Aston Martin drivers. Finally, they have got points this season. Now here is your race winner, Charles Leclerc, standing atop his race-winning car. Again, as I said earlier, on just another level today. Just could not be beaten. I don't think anyone really stood a chance against him today. And maybe SAINZ'S strategy cost him sort of a chance to fight for it, but still, Leclerc by 22 seconds. He was nearly a pit stop ahead of the field come the checkered flag. That is domination on a whole other level. So Charles Leclerc makes his way out onto the podium now. Brilliant, brilliant drive there from the Monegasque, and now takes back control of the championship now. After losing some points in recent races, this is a result that will certainly boost his hopes of this championship and is, well, once again putting him in the position to say this is his championship to lose as he sprays the champagne over his team. It's been a couple of races without a win, but it's only 2 races without a win, and that is very impressive from Charles Leclerc. He is back on the top step of the podium, and Ferrari are just as dominant as ever. So here are your official results for the Singapore Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc who wins with fastest lap by a second, over the next quickest car in this race, which was Max Verstappen, which is just crazy to think about. In comparison, it was Carlos Sainz with the second fastest lap of the race, technically, although with his strategy, maybe that gave him a boost down on 11th. But further down the order, so we have Norris in 4th, Russell 5th, Bottas in 6th, Ocon 7th, Alonso 8th for the 2 Aston Martins, 9th and 10th. Brilliant result for the Aston Martin team. Now, if we look to the driver's standings, it's a 64-point lead. It's the biggest it's been all season. Charles Leclerc takes a huge amount of points over his teammate today. A brilliant drive there from Charles Leclerc. Not only was it just a great race on its own, but it has huge implications on this championship, and this does now put Charles Leclerc in the position to win the championship next time out in Mexico, so make sure to tune into that to see if he can do it. So it's Sainz second in the championship, Perez sitting third just ahead of his teammate Max Verstappen, then with George Russell ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who has now got ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship. So really tough recent races for Lewis Hamilton, as then it's Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris is sitting 10th in the Drivers' Championship. In the Teams' Championship, Ferrari have secured the Constructors' title for the team after just a dominant season. Red Bull had their moments this season, particularly Sergio Perez's victory in Jeddah, making it really look like they could fight this season, but really ever since Imola, Ferrari just looked unbeatable, and Red Bull haven't quite had the pace. In third in the Constructors' Championship is Mercedes, then Alpine, then Alfa Romeo, then it's Porsche in 6th, ahead of Haas, McLaren, AlphaTauri. Finally, we can say Aston Martin got some points on the board, and Williams are the only team yet to score this season. So that's it for today's episode of Alternative Apex. I hope you all enjoyed it. I certainly did. Great to see Charles Leclerc back on the top step of the podium here. And, well, next race in Mexico will certainly be an exciting one because, well, that Mexico circuit can certainly bring some drama. So make sure to subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss out on any future Alternative Apex videos. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.